Alright, hello everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Brogan. Today we are doing another simple signal stream. I bet you're all wondering, what the hell is Bitcoin doing? You know, what's its price action? Why are we bouncing? What are we bouncing off of? What's going on? Well, today, hopefully if you're not, thinking like that, then obviously, hopefully, if you know what's going on, then good for you. But if you're thinking that, don't worry. Hopefully, this show will come to solve and answer that question you have, or potentially have, coming into the stream. I hope to give the main support and resistance points I expect for Bitcoin. We've been moving pretty exactly how we thought so far on the blue line. If you know you've been last stream or stream before, you'll know which lines I'm talking about. You'll know basically what my lines are. But obviously, I'm going to change it a bit. Obviously, the markets are, materializing in many ways as we go along in the days and days and days. So I will be giving a new update to my areas. Obviously, I haven't been on the Telegram in a while, or for the weekend. I know my last support point, which I actually gave to you guys, was like 48 or whatever, or 45, which is pretty low. So we're going to give an update to that. I'm going to see what's going on with Bitcoin. Other than that, I suppose I'll get into the officials, or the not precautionary things, but the things I have to say at the start, which is basically check the descriptions out wherever you're watching. Useful links down there. Telegram's the most important one. There's other ones down there. Just go to them. It'll solve itself. Whatever. Just go to them if you want. If you don't, while you're down there, like the stream. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to like the stream. I wouldn't want a free like. I want to make sure you like the stream because you like the content. But if you just want to be down there, you want to support the channel, like it and follow it, so you get the best content in the entirety of the crypto market. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they are haters to the movement we have in Crypto Warehouse. This is our movement. This isn't a channel. This isn't a community. This is a movement of like-minded individuals who are the best crypto people in the entirety of the market. So if you want to be part of that community, I wouldn't see why you wouldn't want to be part of that community. Just follow the channel, join the Telegrams. That's all I've got to say. Actually, no, it's not all I have to say, because the last thing I do need to say, though, is I will be covering user suggested coins. Put them in the chat a couple of times. I will read them out when I have seen them, and I'll add them to my list. What I haven't done, though, is actually open up the Binance chat. So we'll do that right now. But if you've got any coins to cover, like I said just now, put them in the chat, and I will read them. And I will look at them after we look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, which are the main coins we look at on this channel. Mainly Bitcoin over the past couple of streams, though, because Bitcoin has been the interesting dog, I suppose. So let me just move that to the side. There we go. Just minimizing it. There we go. Let me get my notepad up, my special notepad of all amazing coins. Okay, cool. So we've got everything set up. I think I'm ready. So I think we'll go through some percentages, see what prices we're at currently, and see what's going on. So Bitcoin's currently at 58,845. A bit of a fall from the bounce off of 60, whatever it was. I think it was like 61 something. I don't know if I can't remember exactly what we reached. It was basically within the area we expected. Obviously, we're going to get into that in a second. Basically, it's what we said already, so which is good. It's following the structure so far. Obviously, a bit of retracement, no surprise there. It was a huge sell area. If you already know from what we looked at, if you were here last stream or stream before, I think there's an order block in that range. Big volume in that candle, suggesting inefficiencies. Big candle could be outstanding orders, which we could see, which we could materialize as more sell, which obviously provides itself as a resistance area, basically. I believe there's one more line in that area of sell, but we have obviously gone above. I do need to see the structure of the market. I don't know if we've done a higher high and a higher low. I don't know if we're in an uptrend now. I'll need to see, though, because that could be a good sign, and that's what I'm worried about, because I haven't looked at a Bitcoin chart in a couple of days because I've been working on other stuff, and I've kind of left myself kind of out of the market for like two days, especially the weekend anyway, and the rest of Friday, I believe it was. So I am quite interested to see what sort of market structure we're still in, if we're still in a downtrend, if we have produced higher than a previous high. Because I know I had a line on Bitcoin. Can't remember exactly what price. I think it was in like the 60,000 range or something like that. I think that was the last high, and obviously we broke that. So I'm thinking if we're now in an uptrend, it could change what sort of support points we have. But anyway, besides the point, 2,640 for Ethereum. Obviously, both coins, pretty much all coins actually, up 10%-ish 7 day. It was a huge pump anyway. Also, before I continue, Elon Musk is interviewing Donald Trump at 2 a.m. my time, which is UTC +2. So if you are UTC -4, aka America, or whatever, and you're watching this, then 8 p.m. I believe it is your time, roughly wherever you are, should be the Elon Musk and Trump interview, which obviously they'll probably get into crypto. Come on, it's Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Donald Trump's big thing was talking at the conference about crypto. Or he didn't really talk himself about crypto. He kind of just read off a teleprompter about crypto. Obviously, I don't blame him. You know, every great speech is prepared, whatever. But you know what? Actually, going off topic, what really made my have a pit in my stomach, whatever the word is when he said, have you guys had a stablecoin? That really, grinding my gears. I just knew it was just empty inside. His words were empty. But anyway, going back onto the topic, it's Elon Musk and it's Donald Trump. If they're not going to talk about crypto, then it might well not happen. This is basically a crypto thing. It's not, but they're going to talk about crypto. So it might sway what's going on with the prices. So do bear that in mind. And this goes for every stream I always talk about, or every stream I do. None of it's financial advice. I get things wrong all the time. All streamers, if you watch a streamer consistently, and they never really say this in the streams, or don't really have it on the screen, take it from me, for them, it's not financial advice, okay? Please make sure whatever you are, whoever you're listening to, whatever you're looking at, it is off your own back and, sentiment, whatever, this or the other, that you do take, influence from what these people say, and me especially. Don't take influence. I'm just someone who looks at the charts, gets things right, gets things wrong, whatever. So yeah, just bear that in mind. And I think that is all the precautions. Again, I have to say, going back into the prices, we have 2,643 for Ethereum. I believe 2,900 was a big support. I don't know where the lowest. I can't remember the lowest price we got to. I tried to go back onto the Ethereum chart like a second ago, but I can't remember. I think I had 1,900. I had an area down here somewhere, but this isn't the right chart. But regardless, we got pretty low, and now we're hitting some sort of continuously coming up to support. Obviously, higher lows. So this is a good sign. Obviously, not saying we've broken out of our downtrend and we're going to go all the way up to 100k for Bitcoin, but it is still good signs if we're coming into a uptrend. What's next? We've got obviously whatever. BNB, yeah, BNB is doing pretty well. 12% up in 7 day. Solana 143. It seems like the bounce was off $103, which wasn't a pivotal price for me. I think I had 90 something, like 98 and 103, and I had an order block in that area anyway, so I had huge support there. And then the next leg down was about 80 something dollars, I think it was, which was the similar price for Bitcoin. And this is what I'm saying. I want to see what sort of trend we're in. I want to see what the market's done since I've looked at it to see if we still have potential to come down to there. Because again, remember what I've said about the accumulation phase. If this is correct, obviously this was pie in the sky. If you remember what I've talked about in my previous streams, this accumulation phase, basically we were just watching it. You don't really trade these when you do the AMD cycles. No matter what, if you're doing them on higher time frames, lower time frames, you're normally looking to trade the end of the manipulation phase going into distribution. You're normally looking to watch the A and the M phase and then trade the D phase, because the D phase is normally what's the most surefire. Like the D phase from the AMD cycle comes directly from the result of the M phase. So obviously you trade that more so. So this current period we're in right now for Bitcoin is a case of just seeing where the lowest we can reach, seeing where the highest we can reach before we continue our pump and whatnot. But I am expecting us to have the manipulation phase be something negative, so that we can pump in the future. Obviously, as we expect coming to September, October time, having quite high targets for Bitcoin. A lot of people do anyway. I think mine's on the lower end of many people. I know some people have some people have like 110k, 100k area. I did have something close to 90k, but I think for me it's mainly 80 something k, 90k. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. I would love to Bitcoin to go a bit higher, but my safe bet and my actual bet is about 85k. But that's off topic. I'm not yapping about that right now because we are looking at the prices. But yeah, Solana 143, good bounce. 10.7%. It's actually following pretty nicely what the market's doing. Pretty down actually over the 1 hour, even though we've gone down 1.25% in 10 minutes for Solana. Nothing to worry about though. But you can see with obviously Ethereum's a bit more positive. It seems like we had a nicer bounce. But with Bitcoin and what's going on Solana, they're all kind of doing the same thing, especially on the 7 day. Obviously, as we kind of tailgate the actions we've had on the 7 day, it does get pretty uniform. So that's quite nice to see. It's quite nice to see the markets doing respecting each other quite nicely. Toncoin's had a really nice move in the 7 day as well. Most things are going to be up. Pretty much everything's going to be up 7 day. We had that big pump with Bitcoin. Everything pumped. It was great. Not anything too surprising, as we've already talked about on Bitcoin. So a good day nonetheless, or a good couple days anyway. So I'm going to move on to the actual charts now. I'm going to bring up as well the actual Bitcoin charts on the darker mode where we don't have a big mess. Here we go. Let me shimmy that way. Here we go. So this was our bounce. You can see this was a range. I think it's daily. Is it daily? Where do I have this? I have a reason for this line. Is it here? Here it is. Yeah. So is it this? I clearly have a reason for this area. I believe it was just some sort of area of support and or resistance. I believe it might have been like an inefficiency, which I think I need to. I talked about filling. Yeah, I think we had a main inefficiency, as you can see with this main candle here. Obviously coming to fill it pretty much all the way. We're now using it as support. Obviously coming down to these support. This support line. This support candle, aka buy candle, whatever you want to say. High volume candle, nonetheless. Here. Using it as support now, not trying to come up, but you can see we've slipped below. This was a pretty good support point. You can see we had this was kind of our structure. We had our up down, and then our up, and then a slight bit of a down and upwards, and this kind of cool off leading into this massive move. I drew from this line. You can see good support here, good support here. We had a bit of resistance here, good support anyway. So this white line at about 59,909, basically 60k, is an important line. You can see we've come below it now, and now we're having a bit of difficulty basically at this line as we come up. We can see we did kind of come back into this rough area. Not very too accurate here. We slightly missed it. This is looking to be a bit of a order block. Where's the rectangle? Here it is. Slightly, I would say, slightly. You can see we can see obviously this wick at this midline here anyway, but let me just close that quickly. You can see we're slightly having a bit of difficulty here, but this, you can see there's no difficulty here. Basically, with some order blocks, there's different ways of looking at order blocks. There's the engulfing ones where you have two candles, like this is kind of an engulfing one here. So you can see this is an area. You can see we bounced off it here, basically. So there's that way of looking. Actually, I'll probably draw that. The reason I don't draw so many order blocks, if I drew every single order block I saw, my chart would be a mess. But you can see this order block's formed, and from that order block you can see this midpoint is very important. We slip below basically to this bottom line, and now we're wicking off this middle line. So this is an order block. This is an engulfing one where you kind of have this like moving upwards and then it's moving down. So this would be another one here. You can see this moving downwards and immediate move upwards. This is an order block basically. And you can see the result of this order block. The midline of it was being used here. Hopefully you can see that on the stream. Make sure I draw this properly. I'm trying to draw it properly, but I'm not really doing a very good job. There you can see. You can see here, like, we formed it and then used the midpoint as support. Obviously fell below. We touched back into sell area. Doesn't really matter. I'm talking about things that don't really matter about this stream right now. I'm just saying this is what an order block is. The importance of these singular order blocks, though, is that the previous candle doesn't wick above the wick of this candle, but the height of this should be the order block. So it should be support, or it should be formed as resistance. But you can see we started to use it a bit here, and now we're coming down. So we might have a bit of difficulty. It should be resistance in theory. So we might have a bit of difficulty. We're kind of just hovering from what it seems like. I'm going to delete this because I can't bother to have it on the screen. It's going to be a complete mess if I do have it. So you see, we came back into this area. It looks like we're filling this candle. It seems like what happened to me is we've produced these high volume candles, probably with some inefficiency in these areas, coming down to fill some of this candle. Where there's also fair value gap, inefficiency, what you want to talk about. Really good fill of it. You can see formed it, continued, didn't even come back to it. And then we filled it exactly to this line. And then obviously came up. So good fair value gap here. Using this. Obviously got this a bit outstanding. Again, there's like multiple ways to skin a cat, whatever the phrase is. There's multiple ways of looking at the same chart. You can use, obviously, volume candles. You can use fair value gaps. Inefficiency is basically the same thing. You can use these things. They all kind of potentially, hopefully, if your TA is good, kind of give the same results. So similarly, we have one down. We have one down here. You can see fair value gap. We basically just bounced off this one. We didn't even come into this, which is crazy. And then just came on. So we do have this gap nonetheless. Obviously, being highlighted by this vector candle, which we're outstanding on. Why am I on the 3 hour? What the hell? That's a really weird time for it. I don't know why I'm on the 3 hour. Here you go. We're building this up nicely. There we go. This is good. No wonder this looks so weird. I was on the 3 hour for no reason. You can see here, fair value gap here. Really good. You can see the midpoint being used. Formed it. bounce, obviously flipped resistance coming down now. So we'll probably flip this into a breaker block, which is basically, or mitigation block, I can't remember what the exact one it is. Basically, this is when you flip an order block and then you start to use it as the opposite way. But we still use this fair value gap properly. We still have this fair value gap down here. However, it's not a volume candle. If I go to the 1 hour, it might be, yeah, it's still on the 1 hour, still a volume candle there nonetheless. Coming into it, really good candle here. This is also backup of a good order block, but this is more on the positive side of things. If I draw a rectangle to this height, there you go. You can see wick down to near the midpoint, obviously trying to come down now. Basically just filling this candle. So what I could expect is kind of filling this candle, coming back up again, and then obviously continue. If I go to what I do want to do, which I said in the stream, I want to see. Okay, so yeah, I think it was this line I had here at 61. Oh no, was it? We had like a lot of wicks. It might have been here. Here was a good one. You can see like a high wick here. We printed above it, obviously sweeped it, if you will, and now we're coming down again. But it seems like we're in a bit of an uptrend. You can see, you know, if you kind of just like, you know, see, okay, what's going on? Boom, kind of coming down, and now we're starting to come up a bit. So basically, the previous high before we came down on the 4 hour anyway, you can see this is kind of the high area, and this was basically a straight line down. It wasn't really many highs, like a considerable high you can pay attention to. So you can see this is mainly the last area we had a high. Obviously, in market structures, you've got, you know, the high and lows. This is not your uptrends. Obviously, you've got the lower highs and lower lows. This is your downtrend. So in order to change trend, obviously there's going to be different trends. You can see what else is there? Obviously, like break structures as we continue. On the lower times, there's probably scenarios where we have shifted into a positive trend. But on the high time frame, on the 4 hour, the previous high before we kind of came down, like you can see, this is an obvious high. You can see come down, obvious high, come down pretty much all the way. And now we're kind of, you know, there's the high, and now we came up a bit, had a bit of an equal high there, which obviously kind of, you know, made us come down a bit. And now we're kind of doing this, and now we're kind of coming up again. So obviously, I would expect it to, you know, unless we start to print like a lower high, we could be in a bit more of a downtrend. Obviously, you know, there's kind of this sort of, you know, pattern, which obviously we kind of broke out of in the market. But this wasn't really followed in terms of structure. What I was going to preface before I said if we came into an uptrend is if you had a straight line down and then an uptrend, like a kind of looking like a bear flag, and then dumped again, that's something to pay attention to. But, you know, you still want to trade with the trend. So, you know, unless we put some sort of lower high in, I wouldn't be too worried in terms of breaking this. But in terms of actually proving to me anyway that we're supposed to be going into the higher time frame, or the higher prices, looking towards 70k and, you know, 71 from 500, going towards 74, which is important as well, and possibly breaking out, would be going above 65, 657 is the main price. Our previous high before we had a big dump, obviously changed trend. So you can see this was our change of actually a market structure shift from what it seems like. This is actually our market structure shift, bringing us into a downtrend. You can see here, this was very important to trade. Obviously, in our main uptrend, you can see main uptrend, and then we produced lower than this previous low, suggesting we're going to continue to come downwards. Obviously, you'd want to see something which confirms that. Obviously, coming back to some sort of high area and then trading this downwards. It works the same way the other end. You know, you'd want to see us to kind of come above this and then maybe come back towards 63A or whatever, and then continue to produce a higher low and continue onwards. This would suggest to me we're in a good period to try and come up. But obviously, you can't ignore these, you know, this main, you know, trend line bringing us into this bull flag, waiting to come up towards, you know, 90, 85k, whatever it is. So I am waiting for that to happen. Hopefully it does happen soon. And this is what I'm saying. We're kind of in a bit of an uptrend now. Obviously not on a high time frame, breaking above this. But you can see we're putting in a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Obviously had a bit of a slip up here with this sweep on these main area. Obviously we had this area, and we had this area where there's a bit of congestion, where we had, you know, considerably equal highs. On the lower time frame, this is more important as well. I drew this on the 1 hour. You can see this is a really good sweep. Like if you go to here, you can see this is the line. I think I had this line. If it wasn't that line, it was this line I had. Yeah, it must have been. I think it was this line. But this is equally as important in terms of our highs. You know, these two are considerable areas. And obviously, you can't just trade these solely. But these are periods where you're like, okay, I need to wait at these considerable areas where we produce a higher high than these highs, where you want to look for reversal coming back down towards, the lower end. Obviously, this one wasn't the case. It was more of this case. You can see this was really, really good. Produced slightly a bit above it, and then we continued in our big moving downwards, which resulted, from the candle body in a 4% move downwards. So this was really, really good. I think I pointed this out at last stream. I think I looked at the wrong one though. I think I looked at this one instead of this one, which obviously is really unfortunate. But again, going back to it, the next one up is 65.5. So like I just said, the higher time frames are easier to see the general trend. On the lower time frames, you have these periods where you have a high and like a low, or this high and a low, high, low. But you can see on the low time frames anyway, you're printing these highs and lows, and then we had that was the previous high, and then we nearly tried to print a higher one. But if you look on the 4 hour, you can't really see that apart from the wick. So that's what I was saying, where you're going to have these periods where you have these equal highs, which you don't see on the higher time frames, which is why you need to look on the higher time frames for your trend to pay attention to what the long-term price actually going to be. And obviously the daily as well is probably even more important to try and recognize. You can see you can see from here, from the bottom to the top, kind of a mini little bottom here, high, low, higher, low here. Actually, let me do this properly. The higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then the higher high, and then we produced below this here, and then we continue downwards. So this was the start, or if you consider it from here, this was the start of our downtrend, produced our low, came up, produced a high, and now we're coming down again. So unless we switch really fast, we're still in this downtrend on the higher time frame. You can see coming down to here, up to here, obviously now starting to come down, unless we produced a higher low here, which would be a really small kind of trend. Obviously on the daily, you can see these are sorts of the trends. You can see even this one, downtrend, bounce, continue downwards, our bounce, up, bounce, upwards, down. So it's kind of like that structure. It's like down, up, like down, bounce, down, and then continue in our kind of structure. So couldn't expect to see that waiting. So I suppose it does really matter on what happens on the daily and the higher time frames if we produce a higher low, continue. It's basically like if we print somewhere here and then produce another high, that is when I'm considering something important to happen. Because then at that point you can see from the bottom to the top, and then a higher low, and then a higher high. That is when you start to come into our uptrend, suggesting we've reached our bottom, which we should have really, because from the trend line you can see we've really properly reached that, and then some. So again, considering these low points towards 46k, I don't really think I see it too much anymore, unfortunately. Obviously, this was our structure. I will come back to this in a second. I'll probably spend the last 5 minutes on what I normally do. I normally do the intro, coming into about 9:30, finishing up Bitcoin, and then the rest of the coins. So maybe in 2 minutes, I'll finish up on this, look at this really quickly, see what our structure is, and then move on to Ethereum, Solana, and then any other coins. So yeah, that's what I'm waiting for, I suppose. But in terms of the low time frames, what's actually going on? You can see we sweep all this really, and now we're coming down. So now the considerable thing is to come to the next period in terms of our low. Obviously, this is important as a breaker block, which we're going to have some difficulty at. If I draw it from here, hopefully I've done that accurately. You can see really perfectly from the midline of this breaker block, we are finding difficulty at our candle bodies. Obviously, wicking up to the high point here, producing potentially, depending on what happens on this print of the 4 hour, another order block in this breaker block. So we're starting to form decent resistance where we are right now. Not saying we could break out of it, but this is 4 hour. This is some higher time frame stuff. So this is going to be important on the lower time frames. You can see a really nice rounded bottom. This is actually probably going to be some sort of support as well. You can see we've replicated this here. Actually, no, this isn't. I lied. We can see we sweeped it immediately. If I go to order blocks really quickly, I'll show you what I'm trying to talk about, because I don't know if I explained it properly. This is a single candle order block stuff. So you can see here, this is invalid. This is what I'm talking about here. You can see formed it here, and then we have obviously this is the gap, which is of importance. But you can see we need to continue our high. You basically, the order block is basically the last candle or the last high in that period before you move on. So that is going to be a considerable area. It's like, okay, cool. You've had this candle, which is coming to this arbitrary price area. And then once you've reached this price area, you then continue on to a different trend quite far down. And obviously, the way I kind of think about it, obviously, if this is official or not, is the way price responds to certain price areas. Not really a hard concept, but something I think is valuable to try and think about as a way of analyzing something. Like, if you see, okay, you can see, okay, a wick to here, you can see we come to this price, and then we immediately come down and then some over the next 4 hours. So you see, okay, this price area is clearly a point of interest, or a considerable price area where you have, even here, you can see, come down to this area and then immediately have these big candles upwards. So this bottom area is going to be an interesting area for, to support this case. Obviously, this was our inefficiency area where we had potentially a lot more sell, which we obviously then sweeped. Obviously, this is another order block here, but we had a lot of buy in this period. We had a lot of buy all in one go as well. So this is obviously something interesting. I was expecting this to actually have a lot more difficulty in this area than we did, because we kind of just came up into it, obviously had a bit of difficulty, came back to support, and then just continued, which was nice. Obviously, if you look at based on trends, you can see we had a really nice structure here, obviously starting to break it now, potentially having a bit more of a downtrend, maybe coming back to 54.5. I think 54.5 could be a good low. This is a considerable area. Obviously, we do have volume at 51.349 potentially, but more importantly, we do have this area. You can see, coming to this area, good response, coming to this area, good response again. So clearly this 54.5, 54.5k is a good area when it comes to some sort of support and resistance. Probably if we go back, you can see there's probably some order block. Like, if we look here, this is an engulfing one right here. This is also an order block here. Really equal one there. But more importantly is this one. You can see come down, immediately come back upwards. So this general area is going to be good when it comes to support. So you can see coming back into it. You can see twice we obviously sweeped it, used its support, and then came back into it, big bounce, came back into it, big bounce. So this is obviously clearly going to be a good support point. Obviously backing this, because currently we're like, okay, why do we have this area? Well, you see, going back in time, there's an order block. So obviously you can see, we came back into it, boom, came back into it, boom. So clearly 54.3 potentially, 54, 55 even. This whole area is going to be good support, I reckon. So that could be where our lower low is if we continue down in this downtrend we are potentially seeing right now, as you can see with this kind of, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then we had a lower high and then lower low, and now we're starting to become in this downtrend. So potentially if we continue this, we could see this area be our higher high at about 60,500 and then come down. Where would our low be? Well, we have this fair value gap, so we could see 56 and then maybe come back upwards towards the top of this range at 57 area, 58, where this order block is, coming back down again towards the support point. We could see this if we continue this downtrend, is what I'm sort of trying to suggest. However, they're actually looking at this. It's 9:58 or 9:38, sorry. So I'm probably going to quickly, for 2 minutes, just quickly look at our pie in the sky chart, just to see our structure so far, just see what's going on. So you can see, obviously, same chart, just on the daily time frame. This is still our trend. Obviously, we have these lows. This was in the understanding before we had what our structure is. I don't think we see this as the market is progressing. It's showing less and less likely that we have our big dump. This was big, big market situations going on, which caused our low. Would we have that again? I don't think so. Again, to be fair, on our big time frame, if we go to daily potentially, this is drawn on wicks, or in my chart, these are basically drawn on wicks. Now, I'm not saying we had, like here for example, 72.1 at 7th of June. I'm not saying we haven't had areas where we've wicked outside of this bull flag. However, the bottom anyway, you can see. Okay, well maybe I've not drawn it as accurately. Oops. Maybe if I shimmy this down, shimmy this a bit more upwards to here. There we go. That's better. You can see, this is our low. This is our low. This is our low. These are considerable, as you can see. When we came to these areas, we came up properly. Came to these areas, came up properly. Came to these areas, came up properly. So this trend line for the bull flag is the proper trend line, and this was drawn. And for me anyway, obviously I could be wrong. This was drawn on wicks. So when you look at it and you see wick, 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 and then this big dump, I know this is outside of the market normal price action, and it was kind of, I believe this was when we had a huge pile-up of negative situation in the market, or externally in the macro news. I can't remember when Japan happened, but I know that was big in terms of what happened with Bitcoin. That obviously brought us out. So it could be the case that external market situations caused this, and it wouldn't affect the bull flag, or it does affect it, and then it then means it won't be as strong support, and then we could break below it again. Just saying these out loud, just thinking. Obviously, if we brought this line to the candle bodies, you can see maybe from here to here to here, the candle bodies. You can see it's not as accurate. Again, can see even like here, this bounced to here, obviously had a bit of wicks here. We broke below it here. We stayed here. We're slightly breaking below it. It's not really too structured. So the only properly structured line I could draw for the bull flag is this bottom one. And unfortunately, this latest bottom at about 48k, it broke the bottom of this bull flag. So obviously, I'm just showing my concerns. But again, going back to this, ignoring that fact, I still don't think we have that much bearish potential to bring us down here. I'm just starting to change my thoughts on this too much. But again, it is still a big area. Again, you've got all this volume here. You've got important lines of these highs and these lows, especially this low down here. Obviously, you can see low, 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 sweeped hit, big response. So this is our next low. So I'm not saying we come to 30k. I'm not saying that. But again, just pointing out important areas. You can see here, this was our low. This is, again, it's, if you're someone who analyzes based off this, then you are. In terms of going above highs and lows and the response of them. Not saying it happens every time, but in terms of, obviously we had this low here, which we obviously sweeped, but here you can see all these lows we never sweeped. This was 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 equal bottoms on this area. So this price point of 50,000 was going to be huge area if we sweeped beyond it to have a bunch of liquidity, which was going to allow us to pump basically. And obviously, lo and behold, what we do, we sweeped it and then we came up. Really structured, really nice. Just saying that. But again, going based off like the sweeps, I suppose. Again, our low locally is about 48k. So this sweep could potentially happen. And if we go based off our structure, you can see, okay, this is our low. Let me go back to black. This is our low, and then this is our low. So obviously, the difference between these two lows is an 8. Okay, that's 8% padding. But what about here? This is our low to here. This is about 5%. So let's say it's another 5%. See, our 5% below our previous low. If we were to sweep it, in theory, pie in the sky, it would then bring us towards 46k, as I've talked about. So I'm not saying we do that. I really am not saying that right now. But if we are staying with this, downtrend structure, you can see our bottom to our top now coming down again. Is like if we don't produce our lower low, you know what I'm saying? We could see at this bottom. But again, I even though I've just said that, I don't see it. I think it's a bit too negative, and I don't think we have enough, market power to do that, I suppose, because this was the result of something completely negative. But again, going back to it, this is our accumulation phase. Again, what we've talked about. The power of 3 numbers. This was the phase to kind of bring that. You can see this line's a bit off by like a day or two, even though this was actually drawn based off 2 different methods, even though they line up perfectly, which is good. So you can see, obviously, within this distribution phase, where you can see we had within our manipulation phase the high. Obviously, okay, so accumulate, manipulate, and then obviously the lower end of it was the big movement upwards. Again, the response of it should be within the distribution phase beyond negative movements. However, I don't think that lasts towards November 2024. I really don't. Unless we have something really negative come out, I don't think we stay in this period to come down completely. And again, distribution doesn't have to last the entire distribution phase. So that's why I'm saying this accumulation, so the manipulation being this high movement, in the AMD cycle, the opposite of the manipulation is the distribution. So if our manipulation is a high movement, distribution will be a down movement, and which we are seeing right now. You can see really well structured from this high movement coming into the distribution phase. From this line here, you can see upwards movement, and then you can see from this blue line, we entered distribution phase and we pretty much immediately started our downtrend. So it's pretty structured so far. But again, it's all fractal. Everything's fractal within this. So you can see within each distribution phase, you can have the AMD cycle. You can see even within here, if we separate it, this is probably the accumulation phase about here. This is manipulation. This is distribution. So you can see accumulate, and then what was the significant movement in manipulate was a down movement. So I mean the opposite was the distribution, which was a high movement there. So it is all fractal. It's all structured. So considering the time we are in right now, you can see we're having our accumulation where we basically just do normal price action, just do what we kind of need to do. Manipulation is where it matters, where we kind of have whatever movement. I'm expecting a down pulse, where in the distribution phase we have a pump which comes into 21st September, which if you've gone back in our previous streams, I've already talked about September, October time being when I expect to slightly break out or start to consider to break out of our bull flag, and that we would have an extra bounce. Obviously, we've had an extra bounce. with this clearly 70,390 back down to 48k. This was our extra bounce, so I could see an extra bit of movement. But again, this was a really quick bounce, so we could have an extra bounce maybe, which then brings us even lower. So just suggesting that. But yeah, I expect this to be positive. So within this accumulation phase, coming into basically the start of September, we could continue to see a bit of a downwards movement. Yeah, so that is a bit more confidence, I suppose. This is Pie in the Sky again, so take it as you will. But so far, so good. Blue line coming down to this low, coming up to here, which is really, really good. Obviously, this red was before we had this structure and before we had the market dump in terms of the news. So I redrew it all in blue because we had obviously Japan and everything else in the market. Everything dumped completely. So I redrew it based on our price action. But again, even with the red line, again, it's a bit exaggerated. We still had this red area as our resistance line before we came back down towards this 48 area. So I'm not saying we come back down again. Everyone's sentiment's a bit bullish. Well, again, if the whole market thinks something, normally we might go the opposite way. What I'll do at the end of the stream, I will have a look at the open interest and the CVD data just to see what sort of sentiment we're in. I just want to see where the liquidations could be. But I am going to move on now, though, because we are 6 minutes over my kind of cutoff for Bitcoin and the intro. When was the last? Okay, these are the last lines. Okay, this is some old TA. Oh, where did we have my previous TA? Is it on this one? Here it was. Yeah, this was good. You can see our previous lows. This was our range about. It wasn't here. It was about 1900 on the 4 hour. Was it? I believe it was. I believe, or for me anyway, 1900 was important line. I drew this range just on the daily because that was where the main stuff was here. Actually, I'll probably shimmy that even. So that was where the main stuff was. But for me, I think 1900 was the main area, aka this wick down here. I was just trying to get something which was comparative of Bitcoin's 48k, which I think was 1900 coming towards about 2000, which obviously we wicked towards anyway. Really good, nearly equal, really good, nearly, really good, nearly equal lows here, which is really good bounce. You can see, bang, this is really good stuff. This suggests, though, that there's going to be an important amount of, liquidity below this line at about 2079. So, yeah, just putting that out. But again, similar structure with Bitcoin. You can see, not so much. Again, you can still see we slightly had our, kind of this kind of downtrend, doing this, potentially waiting for this moving upwards. But you can see we had our big slip downwards. Really not very good. But the difference is, though, we didn't really have our uptrend. With Bitcoin, we had this really clear uptrend. But you can see, we had our uptrend. You can see here, really good uptrend, normal. And then we had a higher, a lower high. But then we had a higher low, which is good. And normally, it normally matters more on the lows where the uptrend is. And then you can see, we then came below and printed a lower low, which wasn't very good. You can see here, wait for the retracement, coming back to this fair value gap, came back into it, really big dump. So, a good structure there, good trade to take. If we come back into it, actually, obviously we had our market structure shift from the candle body about here. Again, actually, really good order block here as well. You can see midpoint, really good support. You can see this was really good structure. I would have waited for this. Again, this is daily, so it would take a long time. But this is where you could see a confirmed entry coming into 3,300. This was our market structure shift, forming a fair value gap, which obviously is one of the basic setups, is when you form a fair value gap or an inefficiency, whatever you want to call them, in a shift where basically you go from a uptrend to a downtrend, form the downtrend, retrace back into this gap, and then have the big dump, obviously finding equal lows here, and then more lows here. So this was a good area. So I'm not going to guarantee it. I mean, wow, yeah, this was our news dump, so we didn't have much structure here. But this was a good low at 2,800, which is going to be resistance again as we come up to it. 2,800 to about 2,000. I believe 2,900 was important as well. Yeah, basically so. But again, this was our wick down, and now we're kind of coming up. So we're still in our downtrend. You can see we kind of came up, producing a higher high. So this was our uptrend, very cool. So you'd expect to see a bounce off some sort of support and then a movement upwards. But again, we had big resistance here, so we just continued to break down, and then shifted. It was kind of a bit of a fake out. So we see continue down, bounce, continue down. Obviously had a bit of a bounce here, but then anyway, continue to produce lower lows and lower highs in this structure. So until, similar with Bitcoin, until we see a high above about 3,400, we haven't officially on the higher time frames seen ourselves break into, break back up into a uptrend for Ethereum. But again, when the market pumps September, October time, we're going to eventually see that, and that's when there's a big confirmation for market breakout in most coins. But until then, we're still technically in this downtrend, so still following suit with that kind of ideology. Again, you could see pretty equal highs here. Basically 4 days in a row we had, or I'll go from here actually. You can see, oh my god, it's always this really good equal highs here, which is obviously going to provide some difficulty when it comes to sweeping this and coming up. Obviously, this is basically just a way of thinking about market structure, where you're like, okay, why do we have higher highs and higher lows? Well, it's us kind of sweeping these areas. So we're going to have in a lower low, you can see boom boom coming down. We'll probably we form these highs. We're going to eventually come down to probably sweep this, come up a bit. This is going to be something to outline, probably something like this, or not something like this, but this is just going to be an outstanding area to pay attention to. So this will eventually trigger our downwards movement, I reckon. So you can see kind of come down here. So I reckon there's going to be something like this where we come down eventually, coming towards 2,770, and then kind of coming down eventually towards here. But again, this is our low. So I'm not saying, similar with Bitcoin, like I said, not saying we have this as our low, where we kind of see ourselves go below, which at that point I could then definitely see 1900. I'm just saying that's what the current structure is right now. Again, could we see a reversal? For me, it would be 3,400 to be the previous top before we see ourselves being an uptrend. But we have 2,800 as a good support resistance line now. So that's going to be a good big resistance. We've got equal highs here, which is going to be something to consider when we sweep it, which will be a bit of negativity for the market. In terms of our closest volume, I'm going to have to go to the lower time frames for this. We do have a decent amount of support and resistance, so it kind of seems like you can see the price is slightly doing this. It's not really doing much. It's really, really passive. We've got good support again here, good candle here, printed into it. Obviously equal lows here, so when we sweep that, it's going to be good positivity, coming probably into 2,480. But we're kind of stuck in this area. You can see we've got a lot of support, potential support with these inefficiencies, and a lot of resistance. And this is not concerning, but this is, you see with Bitcoin, it has a clear resistance and a clear support. It normally has like 1 or 2 areas above, 1 or 2 areas below of really big significance. With Ethereum, you can see like it's basically this whole area, pretty much all here has inefficiencies, which potentially could be sell areas, which could bring us down. Again, these candles aren't very big. This one's pretty big though, 3,100. 3,400 area has a decent amount as well. That'll be considerable when it comes to breaking up into an uptrend. But considering it, we do have a lot of support, so I'm not thinking we go too far down right now. This was really good as well, actually. Just looking at it as a value gap thingy here. You can see really, really good there. Formed it, bang, came up. So we're probably going to come back into this. Oh, not very soon, but just suggesting we do have a lot of area here. So in terms of where Ethereum goes, you can see, going back on the high time frame, we had these equal highs. This is, until we break this, it's going to be somewhat considerable as a resistance point. You can see, this bounce, near bounce, probably another near bounce. But where's our bottom? Where's our bottom? You can see we're kind of in this here. You can see this bounce, kind of coming up. We could be coming down towards here again. If you see where the trend's going, and it takes a while to do that, it could be meeting at about this bottom blue area to get more buy and then continue onwards. But the thing about each movement has been, we had some red on the way up. Not really here. You can see this was really good though. This, we formed this sell, filled it pretty much immediately. But this one in particular, we can see a lot of sell as we came down, filled it up pretty much immediately, filling some green. So now we're gonna have to fill this, and then obviously continue onwards, producing some sell. That's kind of how obviously the market works. As it moves, why do you have these trends? Well, you need to obviously cool off pretty much on each extreme. Otherwise, you just go up forever or go down forever. So I could expect to see something on the lower end of things. coming down a bit in the market eventually. Let me just draw a rectangle though. I want to see what this gives. This big old gap here. So you can see, we came into it, big response, filled it though here, big response. So we finally surpassed this. So I could expect this is actually more of a order block here. You can see this is an order block. It's actually interesting how the order block is actually identical to this volume area because of this wick. But again, you can see come down, immediately come back up. This is the area for the order block. So I could expect this to be support, and I could expect it to also be the area we come to next for Ethereum, because we are still in this downtrend, unless obviously we get proven otherwise. This is also a good order block, as I've already shown previously. Good gap, obviously not too much wick upwards. You can see the respect of this, especially off the midpoint. If I zoom in, you can see midpoint's really well respected. So good order block here. Again, just some more resistance. So it seems like we've formed this kind of mediocre range we're kind of in right now. This is also another order block here. You can see an engulfing one between here and here, which we obviously respected as we came along. You can see, bounce, 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 bounce. Obviously wick below, a bit of resistance. This was just a temporary thing. Obviously bounce off it again. So this will probably be another thing of resistance or support in this case now. But obviously not suggesting we couldn't wick down even lower than here. I should probably read the chat though. I've got a lot to cover, and I'm wasting a lot of time myself, not going that fast. So that's what I kind of think of Ethereum. I know it was kind of messy, my thought process, but sometimes it's just like that. But I have these ranges at this price, especially. We kind of have a premium discount, from what seems like a premium discount. If I draw this, yeah, this is pretty perfect actually in terms of premium discount. You can see. Actually, I'll probably go off the high instead. If I get that there, and then get this low on the blue one instead, and then do just like 500, let's say. Let's just keep it along. You can see this is actually really good. You can see the general buy area, and important. I think there's some people who use premium discount areas which have an area, another area. Yeah, this one here it is. I think it's this one. You can see like. Oh, is it that? Oh, I might be wrong. Hold on. I've seen some online where they'll have premium discount areas, and then there's like a 25 or like a 25% outer rim on both areas, which are suggested to be good support resistance. Where if you came into them, would be good buy and sell areas, but I'm not sure where. Okay, let's do it manually ourselves, just see if it lines up properly. Just do these two. So it'd be like 0.75 ish. There is it 0.7, or is it 20? It could be 20 actually. It might be 20 instead. So it'd be 0.8. Okay, that's 0, so it'd be 0.2. So these are the general. Yeah, you can see it's decent, especially with this bottom one, like where there's like proper buyers and proper sellers. But anyway, still premium discount, whatever. We can see like good resistance again at this premium. Obviously, we haven't tested this, but good order block here at the discount. So obviously, you've got this premium discount. I thought I recognised it because we have a really good medium. So from what it seems like right now, we're kind of in a range. So obviously, doing pretty well. Kind of got a. Obviously, we've still got this structure. I don't know if this is a chart pattern. I can't remember. But as far as I'm concerned, we have a bit of a range here, which obviously you'll have to respect to trade until we break out. This is 1 hour as well, so you can probably go to like 30 minutes and go, okay, cool, what's going on here? You can see, okay, we've kind of got this order block here. If I draw this quickly, order block here, what's going on? Obviously dip below, but again, still probably keeping it as structured. But I don't really like this too much actually. Obviously the question is, do we have anything considerable like gaps or anything? Not really. This was our previous low, so this will be a good area to consider. So it could be something where we come to, we have this sort of thing, maybe come down towards the midpoint and then come back upwards again. We see on lower time frames, obviously we had our lower high, lower low, obviously broke above here, and now kind of in this uptrend until we break it again, which I don't think we'll do again, considering the high time frames. Bounce here, bounce here, bounce here. So I don't really think we break out anytime soon. I think we continue this downwards movement to kind of see this. You can see we've kind of had our up, down, up, and now we're having our down. So we could have, if we're in this uptrend, this could be our higher high, or our higher low, sorry. So we could come up again maybe towards the top of this range again, towards 2,700, and then come back down if we continue this uptrend. But again, it's messy. That's all I know right now is we have that range, and obviously continue on with that. Let me go to Solana. You know what? Let me read the chat. I haven't done that entire stream. I probably should look at this chat. There's a lot of spam in Binance, so I'm not even going to bother reading that. Don't really care. I haven't checked YouTube actually in a while. I've been really kind of engrossed in trying to get everything done on the obviously these charts. So what have we got? Kishan, good evening. Hello, Kishan. Absolute go right now. Absolutely go. The MVP, if you will, of trading. Just literally all you know, all he'll do, he'll just come into the chat. He'll post like a 400 bazillion% up trade, and that's that. That's all he'll do. It's great. Treat, what's going on? Genders, what's going on? Brandy Bryant, thank you, homie. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you found aid in what you said. Are you? I know Mike mentioned that there was some like new people who were like a bit, decently consistent on the stream. So obviously, welcome to the trading stream. If you've got any coins you want to cover, put them in the chat. I actually haven't seen a single coin, which obviously I don't mind. I have overrun in a lot of my TA, so as the stream goes on, I'll probably do less and less coins. So if you've got like a coin or two, then I will cover them. But I'm not going to do too many because obviously we've only got 10 minutes. Solana, I'm not going to spend too much on Solana. I normally don't anyway. This is a really messy chart. Do I not have any other charts? Okay, I've got this chart, I guess. I don't know. Let's go back to this one. It's messy, but it works. It's like a crumble cookie or whatever they are. It's like, they're messy, but they're lovely. Anyway, let's shimmy that along. Some consistent lows here. Actually, I do need to cover Nero, I think, as well. If we have a quick look at our structure, you can see, high, low, high, low. Same thing with Bitcoin, actually. Pretty much identical. Oh, no, was it? I think it was Bitcoin where we had this, and then we had a big stretch and then came down. But you can see we technically had a lower low, and now we're coming up. So this looks like our high, so we could have another lower low coming down again, surpassing this consistent area, which we've already surpassed once. But once you've surpassed it, you could surpass it again if you've not fully filled it. But once you've got these, equal lows, consistent equal lows, maybe even here, for example, once you've kind of done it, you don't really come back and do it again. You can see we've done it once, we've done it again. So I don't really think we do it a second time in such a short space of time, unless we bounce off it at about 142.3. Unless we bounce off it again, we could, but it's more so that I think we have this kind of lower low. In terms of a lower low, where do we go to? Well, let's have a look, I suppose. What could be a good support point and or resistance? Obviously, got a lot of lines there. Do we have anything consistent behind us? This is like, okay, you know what? Actually, let me go into Solana on a light chart, so I can find if there's any. Sorry if I'm flashbang everybody. It's on daily. What am I on? 4 hour. It's gone 4 hour. Let's quickly look back. See here, like even where we are right now, you can see a decent consistent area, especially here. Where's the line gone? There we go. So consistent, obviously, formed it, sweep above, bang, sweep above. These are equal highs. This is going to be important as well. Obviously, really equal highs here. Obviously, coming up above it. So if we go back into it, really good bang here. Obviously, sweeped it and it came up. Sweeped it, came up. So now we're coming back into it. So it could be one of these, like, W's. It depends if we bounce off here, which is obviously there's potential for it. If I get this though, I want to see. We actually have equal lows here. Obviously, this is a wick though. To be fair, so if I go to 1 hour, maybe there's more something considerable. See, we've got really good equal lows here, so this will be a good considerable thing. So this will be our lower low basically. So this will, like I said, this will basically be our lower low. So going back on the idea of like, oh yeah, liquidity sweeps, whatever. You've got these like high, sweeped it, boom, lower low. You can see these were our lows. You sweeped it, came up, continued onwards. So this will be probably something similar. You've got these equal high here. Obviously, changed structure into downtrend. You see downtrend, boom, boom, coming down now. So these will be our equal lows. Also backs up with these vector candles. So we have liquidity and these vector candles. So coming into in between 138 and 141. I reckon we come down, kind of sweep this maybe at 140, 139, whatever, and then we'll obviously come up again to a lower high and then continue our downtrend. If we have a really nicely structured downtrend where it kind of does this. In terms of the lower high, where could a lower high be? Well, really nice thing here. Really nice order block, which we obviously immediately invalidated. So it's kind of like it's not very good, to be fair. You can see kind of come up to the come down, and then we came up again. This is really structured. I'm surprised we haven't really respected it too well. Go to the 4 hour. See, it's like come up to come down. This especially, this is like come up to come down. So there's going to be some sort of resistance in this area, is what I reckon anyway for this. So resistance coming down, obviously that's going to be good. So what would happen again, going back to the 1 hour, like I just drew, downtrend, bang, forming these resistance areas, coming down, sweeping this number 1 and number 2, coming to this buy area, maybe not filling it all, but could be filling it all, and then coming up maybe towards about 148 and then continuing. If we follow this downtrend, the next line, where could we see that next line be? Are there any consistent areas? Well, there's this order block here. There's also remaining. See, fair value gap, we came back into it, came up. So we could still have something like here. I don't know if fair value gaps have to be filled fully for them to be respected. I don't think so. So I will ignore that for now. What I will do is draw this order block, though, along. So we could have that, could be our next low. So just, theorizing, if we continue a downtrend, we could see it like this. The resistance could be somewhere where, at this line maybe, then continuing down, suppressing this. If we continue this downtrend, like I said, this is exaggerated to all hell. So just saying, but we could, if we have this downtrend, these are the sort of prices I could expect. Equal lows could suggest a really good situation. If we print below this quickly to about $130, $140, it would probably print below really quickly and then come right back upwards towards maybe this midpoint. So it could be a really quick moving upwards for Solana if we see that down there. And then obviously come onwards. Obviously, I might go to daily though quickly on this blank chart, just see the general movement, I suppose. Equal lows. See, again, this is actually a very similar scenario what I've just talked about in the low time frame. Got these, relatively equal lows here, which we formed. Again, came below it, and then this pretty much straight after came back upwards. Here's even better. You can see equal low, starting to form this consistent, liquidity area, if you will. And then obviously sweeps it and then came up. These are good areas where there's potential for reversal. I'm just going to delete it for now, though. Actually, I'll show this example over here. This is a good one. Obviously, surpassing this, forming it about here. You can see, obviously came down, boom, came down, equal low, relatively equal low. Obviously, wick down into the area, not so good. But you can see what happened then. If we go to daily, mate, let's say. We formed it, and then we sweeped it, and then we came up, and then we started an uptrend. So you see, downtrend, formed it, obviously came up then. So it's obviously something to bear in mind. Obviously, I've said obviously twice, what the hell? In this case, obviously we had inverse head and shoulders. But just to kind of point out the potential, usage of these sorts of levels, with these equal bottoms. So again, this would form another one if we have either an equal bottom or just a general high area. This is good as well. This is going to be, obviously these are going to be order blocks here and here. You can see, though, importantly, boom, formed it, came right back down. So this is going to be a general order block area. You can see bounce off there again, which actually also formed our double top and then came all the way down. But if you shimmy it across, we missed it by nothing. Well, we formed a better one and a newer one here. As we progress, you can see we formed it here, resistance, bounce, formed another one here, which had a wider range, which then produced this, which then bounced off here of our resistance. We can see with this one as well, like this one is also going to be a decent order block because you can see, actually there's a, never mind, this invalidates it, that's the problem. So there's not going to be much there. There could be this though, this could be something considerable. Obviously again, a double top, equal highs here, or in terms of candle prints, and then obviously big dump, which is obviously unfortunate. It's been following a nice structure. See, double bottom, double top, potentially double bottom, coming back up again. If it's that positive, then that is the thing. I'm trying to see if we have any more like relative lows. Not really. I think the next one is pay attention to this. Because, although this is an order block, this is also our previous high where we could print above, maybe towards $199, $200, and then come back down again. But this is going to be also very considerable. Like, this is a low area. Like, this was, okay, and these are always really important areas to pay attention to, is areas or price points which are formed when obviously there's big news. So whenever like big news happens, obviously Japan changed its I believe it's interest rates or something. It like increased them, and then like the value of the yen when you buy the bonds, it like gave you a bit less of a return. And then there's a huge sell-off, and then everything dumped. So these areas are important when there's so much going on externally from the market, which causes price action to change. So this whole price movement wasn't based on any sort of actual data in volume or not in volume, but in terms of the charts or trends or common patterns. It wasn't based on anything. It was solely based off news. So when you form these movements which are based off news, and then you find your low, these are going to be really important areas, because these are areas which aren't based off price action the slightest, but then all of a sudden have this instant stop. So this area or this price at $109 is going to be very, very important. $110 if you will, which is also an area I found within here as well. Obviously $110. We've already had that drawn for a while now back here. So again, to be fair, it is a price we've already seen, but it is good backup in terms of an area you're going to see. It's like, okay, where we're going to see it is just backup for stronger area. You can see another order block I just found here. See, boom, bounce into it. Obviously flipped it, and then we just wicked it down into it. But then here, big boom. It's going to be here. This is going to be a bounce. This is going to be a bounce. Wicked below it actually, but we never print below it, which is the important part about it. So this is again going to be consistent resistance or support in this case, which I don't actually have back here. So that's just something to consider on the higher time frames for Solana. But I do think if we follow this downtrend, that's the sort of action I could expect. Sweeping this, coming into this volume area, coming back up into this order block, coming back down to this order block, finding resistance at this line, at these lows and highs and whatnot, and then maybe either finding more resistance at a double bottom here, changing trend. Because how does your trend change normally? Well, you have your higher highs, and then you have like this equal high or a lower high, and then you start to come down again. But in this trend, what do you notice? You normally have something like an equal low or an equal high. So it could be the case that we have an equal bottom and then start to change our trend backwards or back upwards. Just something to bear in mind. But what I'm going to do, we have gone over by 2 minutes. I'm going to quickly go to Nero. I think it's just Nero USDT, I think it is. Now, I want to show something. This is world first, I think. I'm not going to show it too much because I want to keep the secret sauce. This is some world first TA. All right, this is some like mathematical theorem stuff right here. I don't really think I've seen much in crypto. And I'm going to say it here. Fractal Fibonacci. Boom. That's the name of it. All right. So what does that mean? It's when you... Okay, this is... Hold on, that's not what I want. I just want normal. There we go. It's when, right, you have your fib levels, and then what do? Oh, let me shimmy back, because I'm all over the place right now. There we go. What do you do? So I still need to figure out. I don't know if you can do it from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top. Let's just do top to the bottom, whatever. When you draw a fib levels in the fib level. So not in terms of... So in this case, it wouldn't be above 1. So you wouldn't have these numbers, for example. It would be just this area solely. But in each fib area, because, price is fractal. Let me shimmy all this. Yeah. So price is fractal, if you don't know. That is something to bear in mind. Let me shoot that across. There we go. So this is basically fractal fib. So this is the idea that you can draw a fib inside each fib zone. Again, you draw one here, for example, and these will give you more areas. Because again, in fib areas on the higher time frame, you're like, okay, cool. And since price is fractal, you can pay attention to the high. You can draw things on the higher time frames, and it will like kind of go in the low time frames. That was a horrible example of what I'm trying to explain, but still, something to bear in mind. Or I've probably explained it horribly, but just remember. But if price can respect what's going on the higher time frames and cascade downwards, then why can't it respect the fib levels as it cascades downwards in terms of fractalized fibs, which is basically fib in a fib, basically, whatever you want to say. What was that? 45. Okay, I'll look at Lycon really quickly after I do this. I'll do it at 10. I'll do 10 past 10. So I'm going to spend 2 more minutes on this talking about this. But anyway, going back to this. Fractalized fib, where you kind of have the fib and a fib, and you have these ranges. And the price can respect this in the ranges. Okay? So let me show you my my thoughts. So not this one. This one's not very good. This is something different. Okay, I'm gonna have to draw it there, aren't I? Because it's not very good. Now again, actually, this is in theory. So I don't know if doing it this way is better than doing it on the down. But I think if you're in a downtrend, you might want to do it on the downwards way. I'm not too sure actually what the best way is to do it. Actually, to be fair, these are negative numbers. I'm not gonna do negative numbers. That's not how that works. Where's the 0 line? Crap. On. Okay, let me just do this real quick. Let me draw it live. And then we can get each price. So you want 0, because obviously you can't go negative, otherwise the coin's buggered. 1797. So, there we go. So this is fractal fib right here. I think it should be the right round. I think, yeah, it goes inverse, doesn't it? Yeah, so it should be fine. So you can see, like, you can kind of see the respect of it here, especially, like, this line here. This wasn't anything considerable, but these lines here and then these lines here. Going back to the 1 hour, I suppose. Here, you know, this line here, bounce off it here. Really good respect. Again, fib is never perfect. It's a natural number. But you can see, like, here, especially, you can see if we just highlight it, you can see the amount of times we've bounced off this midline multiple times. Bounce off it here, bounce off it here, you know, bounce off it in this area especially, and this area where we've just been. And then obviously we come back. What do? We bounce off this orange one, bounce off the orange one, bounce off orange, bounce off orange, bounce and bounce. You can see we do respect these pretty nicely. Obviously bounce off this green one. Okay, let me shimmy it across a bit. It's not too... let me make sure that's accurate. There we go. That's how that was. And then we shimmy it across. What happens? We slip below this fib level. Again, fib in the fib, you'll find more support in here. But you can see what happened. Bang. Obviously, we then formed kind of a double bottom and came up. But you can see, we came on this green one exactly. And now we're coming up. Obviously, this was drawn on something else. This is some other form of value. I'm not going to talk about it on the stream. But this is a different way of looking at values, okay? And these are respected even better, to be fair. This is something different. Obviously, if you know what these are, then you know what these are. If you don't, then obviously you don't. But these are really well respected, actually. These levels, if you will. So I use these instead because these are still fib levels. But again, just you know, toy with the idea, fib in the fib. But anyway, going to Nero, because I know I've asked for Nero. I'm going to spend 30 seconds. So I think we've come down, obviously we had support here, we've slipped below, came back into the next one. So I think the next area is coming up to here, got this sell area. So either we come to here or we come to this area. But it could be about 10. Actually, you know what? I'd say 10 or 1 cent, actually. I'd say 1 cent. You can see we have, we actually have a fair value gap here. But we've got this resistance here, which is exactly at 10. So I think 1 cent and then come back downwards, continuing for Nero. Not too much lower because we're basically near 0. So unless the token goes to crap, then I don't know. That's Nero. I'm going to move on now though. Last thing I'm going to do, Litecoin, just a real quick look at it on the higher time frames, on the monthly, as I was asked. Actually, let's go on to I might have a chart somewhere. All right, okay, that's not my chart. There we go. Here's a chart. Oh, there we go. This is respected nicely. I think it was Litecoin. Was it Litecoin? Yeah, Litecoin, yeah. Bitcoin target, XRP. I can't do XRP. I'm already 10 minutes over when I wanted to end the stream, so I'm not going to do XRP, but I can go over Bitcoin, what I talked about in the last last 30 seconds of the stream. Quickly look at Litecoin, though. Obviously, we came up from the big sell area, resistance here, support at this line, no surprise here. And then obviously we flip the line, support here, no surprise there. Big order block using it as resistance in a range similar to other things. Go to the higher time frame as I've been told on the weekly. Kind of see what's going on here. You can see obviously bottom down, so we could produce, we could produce a higher high as we're coming into it now, which would have to be below 76. So it could be within this range. Up here, if we look back though, we've got another order block back here of the same stature of this. You actually see it really easily here. If I go to here, see order block on the order block. So this is a really good order block, 63 towards 65. I could expect it to come towards maybe $70. If it does, that's a daily actually. You can see a downtrend, up, down, double high, double top. I mean, or equal highs, whatever. You can see this normal downtrend. So a lower high, a decent resistance could be, either within this range. You can see here, we have a decent amount of bouncing on this range here. This is really consistent. You can see bounce, 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 bounce. Obviously slipped below it and then bounced up. And if we shimmy that across, where's that bring us? It brings us about $66. So it could be $66, but I reckon about $70 could be. So in this area could be our next high as we continue downwards. But everything's looking like it's still in this downtrend, as I've already talked about. Going back to Bitcoin really quickly now, just for the last thing. Two things. What direction is Bitcoin might? What direction is Bitcoin might likely go right now? Let me have a look. So obviously I've already talked about this structure we've been in. I'm going to go to this time frame. Actually, no. I looked at Bitcoin on here, didn't I? So I'll do the final update on Bitcoin as in the start of the stream, and then I will go to end the stream. So I've talked about the fact that we could be having in our downtrend. You can see we had our uptrend like this, and then we had relative equal highs. We sweep this liquidity here. You can see really good liquidity here. You can see these highs and the lows from here and here. Obviously printed above it really precisely. Already talked about this anyway on the higher time frame on the light chart. You know, we talked about this this sell area which we came into, which also had a really nice order block here. You can see the midline of this order, or the candle body of this order block. If I draw a line across, you can see really nice there. Bounce. You can see exact bounce even. Really good respecting there. So anyway, we've already had this, but going back into it in terms of liquidity sweep, obviously, like I said, in many ways it's going to the same cat, or whatever you want to say. Sweep tick came down, and interesting, the sweep actually started to produce us or produce this new kind of trend. Obviously switched our trend. Now we're starting to be in this downtrend again. I've already talked about, I think we definitely have 55 towards 55.5 or 54.5, sorry, as really good support. I think that's going to be really good support. I don't think we come down to 48. Again, higher time frame. We could continue this downward trend. We've been respecting it so far, as I have here. This is still the accumulation phase, but it could go continuing downwards. Anyway, I think we're in a downtrend. I still think we continue a bit more downwards. We have a consistent order block here, which we found resistance at. You can see this was our low, this was our high. Obviously on the low time frame, you could suggest we're starting to produce a little bit of a higher high, or higher low, sorry, and we're starting to come into a new trend. But again, if we go to this trend, or the 4 hour, you can see how clearly this trend is right now. You can see this is where our high was. We're already coming down. So I think the next downwards movement is either to this fair value gap you can see here, towards about 56, which backs up this order area we had. So this rough area about 56, I could see then the bounce come back upwards towards about 57.7 because of this big old order block we have printed. You can see right now we're having difficulty. This was a live print actually of it. I just realized I don't have the prices on my screen. Sorry. You can see like we have this order block is just printed, and we're having difficulty at this midline right now. So I think if we continue that up, we could see the bottom of this, or maybe somewhere within here as the resistance, and we continue a downtrend coming down towards 54.5, 55, and then maybe we change the trend again. But I need to end the stream. I've gone over about 13 minutes. I'm very sorry. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. Thank you for suggestions. Join the Telegram in the descriptions wherever you are. Check the whole description. Check all the links. Really useful. If you want any questions or any of the charts I've looked at, or any, you know, if you maybe join late and you don't know what I talked about for Bitcoin, I can screenshot the Bitcoin chart and give a little paragraph of what I talked about, or just go back in the stream when I end right now and have a look. But anyway, you know, the Telegram is where we all are, where we talk the most. So do go join there. If you want to support the channel, $2.99 a month. It's, you know, it just helps the channel grow. It's nothing. It's going to change. You know, it's not going to like fund us to buy 14 cars, or we're not going to waste the money. It's $2.99 a month. It's a community thing. But you get access to the OG group, which is where you get all the indicators. We've got channel signals. Do I even have them up here? We've got simple significance. Brilliant, by the way. Simple significance. Love it. Simple significance. Even here, look at this. It literally has the areas I've already drawn. Simple significance, I'm telling you right now, is beautiful. If you want access to this, come to the OG group. Once you get it though, this is the thing. $2.99 a month, you could buy it and immediately cancel. They'll be added to the group. You can get all the indicators. And I'm not going to remove them because you get them and that's it. So $2.99 a month, you get all the indicators. We've got this one. Obviously, these are really good. You can see my trend has drawn from. I didn't even have it open. It's brilliant. I love it. I love some significance. I don't use it because I made it. Obviously, I don't have it up. I do want to show the other one though. I don't know where it is. Yeah, chart signals. again, this is a signals one. The settings are obviously something you have to change. You want maybe on the higher time frame, you want something like low, like this, something like this. You can see these are some channels. You can see coming from the channels, coming outside the channels are normally areas you're oversold, overbought. You've got some EMAs which you are above or below. You've got parabolic SARs to suggest if you're going to be in an uptrend or downtrend. You could trade these solely. The SAR, I wouldn't advise it at all, but you do also get these signals depending on the frequency of. But again, you know, if you go on like, you do have to be responsible with it. If you go on high, it's going to be ridiculous. You can see like these sells, buy, sell. It's a bit, you know, risky here. You may lose with it. This is not financial advice. I'm not responsible for any trade you take based off this. But you can see, I mean, we technically have had a sell suggestion very, very soon. You can see, you know, EMA cross, parabolic SAR has crossed already. Everything's pretty much negative. Coming back into this range right now. Obviously, if it goes to daily, it does give something else. Daily's pretty good though on high. You can see good buy, good sell, good buy, good sell, good buy, good sell. Obviously, we're starting to print green now, so that could be something positive. Again, I'm not going to go too much into it. If you want to get access to that, it's all in the OG group. I actually also have the magic line. Actually, where is it? This one's good as well. I like this one. Here it is. This was a different one as well. You can see these have some ranges here. These have significant lines of EMAs, especially these ones here. I believe the yellow one. These orange ones are a general range of good bouncing. You can see whenever you normally come into these ranges, these are really good areas of either support and or resistance. It's basically a collection of different EMAs with some standard deviations and some 200-day padding over here. Obviously you can see when you touch these areas, these are considerable areas. But again, I'm not going to go too much into it because I need to end the stream right now. So thank you so much all of you for watching. If you want anything of the indicators, if you want any advice or whatever, not financial advice though, but just general advice, or if you want to ask me questions or just, you know, come talk, come to Telegram. That's where you are. That's where you need to be. All I want to say there. Go to the description. Thank you so much. Goodbye.